All right, good morning, everybody. So welcome to Dew Point's development seminar this morning. Welcome to everyone who's tuned into the live stream, and hopefully a lot of the people down in Durban at our encounter will be watching this development seminar. I think Brendan's going to be turning it on a little later this morning before they start. Nonetheless, we're going to carry on. So this morning's Dev seminar, the name, 3 Golden Steps to Success. So you might have noticed if you were paying really good attention earlier in the week, is that we said we were running a dev seminar today called Fundamentals of Building Success. They're actually the same development seminar. So if you're really on your game, you'll know that if in the old days we used to call it Fundamentals of Channel Building, that name evolved with the development seminar into the 3 Steps to Success, and then there's a slight evolution of the dev seminar called 3 Golden Steps to Success. Now, why the golden? Has anyone figured out why we've thrown the golden in? Because we're going to be taking lessons from a gold miner this morning. So some of you might know that I've been entrenched in gold mining since the day I was born. I was born in Welkom, and you might know that the Witwatersrand Basin in South Africa is the richest gold resource in the country, in the world. And if you want to know what that looks like, I'll give you a little map over here so you can see all the way in the east. So here I'm on Mpumalanga side in Evander. It stretches through to the East Rand. It goes straight across through Joburg all the way to the west in Carletonville, and then it goes a little bit down into the northwest province past Klerksdorp, and then it goes south into the Free State, into Welkom, and then back all the way up to Evander. So that is the Witwatersrand Gold Basin. Little bit of trivia. A massive meteor hit South Africa many millions, I think maybe even 2 billion years ago or something ridiculous. And that actually protected all the gold deposits from erosion. And that's how the gold has been stuck underground waiting for us miners to discover it. So anyway, I was born in Welkom, and as a family we moved pretty much to every little mining town while I was staying at home. Fortunately, I then left home. My father and my mom carried on moving all over the place. And so I've been exposed to gold mining. But more importantly, a lot of business principles that I've kind of, I guess, inherited from my father. My father is, if I may say so, extremely successful operations production miner. So he's not one of these gold miners that sit at head office. He's one of the gold miners that actually get stuck in. He's very much involved on the operations side, and gold mining is tough. It's tough. And there are some principles that we can learn from gold mining, because if you can make gold mining work in South Africa, you can make channel building work in South Africa. And so we'll look at the parallels between what we call our core behaviors here at Dew Point with regards to channel building and some principles of gold mining specifically, well, more generally about business. So you can see, gold mining in South Africa is pretty difficult. It has, the gold price has declined 7% since 2016. 50% of gold mines in South Africa are considered marginal. South Africa currently employs almost 120,000 people in the gold mining sector, whereas I think probably in the 80s we were employing 500,000 people, right? So you can see the decline that's happened there. We are probably ranked globally, I think, 7th, whereas in the 70s we were number 1. In a single year in 1970, I think we produced 500 tons of gold in a single year, which is the all-time record. Currently, China is the biggest producer, and they only produce half of that currently, right? So in our heyday, we were certainly there, and it's just become a bit more difficult mining gold in South Africa, primarily because of the gold price, because of the rand-dollar fluctuations, and most importantly, because gold is so deep in South Africa. So it costs a lot of money to get that deep. Over here near Carletonville is the deepest mine in the world. It's about 4 kilometers deep. And I think with every 100 meters that you go underground, the temperature, so the rock temperature increases by a degree every 100 meters. So they've developed phenomenal technology in that mine to cool the rocks down at 4 kilometers, because you're sitting at something like 60-degree temperatures down there. All right. Fortunately, channel building is not so onerous. A little bit easier. A little bit easier. Okay. So, the 3 steps to success are based on what we call our core behaviors. So if you go onto our website and you go look a little around there, you'll see some fundamentals of channel building, and we list them as core behaviors. And the 3 core behaviors here at DewPoint are personal activity, quality, and growth. Whether you are new to this business or whether you've been in this business for 2.5 years, and whether you're in any form of business, these business principles, these core behaviors can be carried through to kind of achieve success for anything, I think. So we're going to go through each one of these, and then we're also going to look at how gold miners relate to these core behaviors, because there's some parallels there and perhaps some things that we can learn from gold mining here in South Africa. So let's start with the first one. Personal activity. Now this is the most important fundamental core behavior here at DewPoint. It results in first point growth. This is something we cannot escape, right? And if you are rank 4 and above, you will know that Brendan will painfully highlight every wealth generators workshop that he does, what personal activity looks like for each individual wealth engineer that's above rank 4. Because it is an indicator of where you're going to get to in this business, right? Your personal activity is the one thing that you can keep yourself accountable to. The other 2 core behaviors are almost softer skills. But this is a stark metric that you cannot escape. Like I said to all the new people that join our business, the one thing you can keep yourself accountable to is how many people that you're speaking to in a month, right? And you can put that number up on your fridge. You're either meeting it or you're not. Our entire projection with regards to what your goals will be related to what that metric is, what your personal activity is, right? And so it is the only way that you are able to measure your results with regards to your first point growth, because your entire channel stems from what your first point looks like, and you are accountable to what your first point looks like. Nobody else. You can't blame anybody else, right? Your first point. And if we go look at anyone's report, if we want to go look at someone's business, the first thing we look at is your first point. The first thing. We go, okay, let's see how much they're growing every month. Let's see how big their first point is. Let's see how many qualified wealth engineers they have on their first point. And that to us can pretty much dictate what the entire state of your business will look like. We don't have to go look at your second and your third and your fourth points. We look at your first point, right? And it should be your primary focus always is what is the status of your first point. And it is derived solely out of personal activity. Now from gold miners, it's exactly the same. Production on a gold mine is probably unparalleled in South Africa because they run that gold mine 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. They've got 3 shifts that work on that mine daily, right? They've got people, staff, miners that opt to work on Sundays because they'll give shifts options. They'll say, who wants to work on Sunday? Who wants to work on Christmas? Who wants to work the night shift on Sundays? And they have laborers that come in and they'll fill up every single shift, 3 shifts a day for 365 days. That is the personal activity required to run a mine. So in my father's position, I spoke to him this morning. He was saying he works for some big investment consortium that specializes in investing in assets. It's a Chinese-based firm, and they've bought 2 shafts here in South Africa, both of them loss-making shafts, right? And currently, so he's taken over those 2. Currently, they employ nearly 7,000 staff on those 2 shafts. As I said, they're operating constantly. They currently mine, so that's the ore, that's the rock that they're bringing up out of the mine, 130,000 tons a month, and out of the 130,000 tons a month, they derive 500 kilograms of gold. Right? Now, are we not doing a very similar thing? You can replace ore with prospects, and you can replace the gold with perhaps qualified wealth engineers, and more importantly, that one rank 9 that you're looking for, right? That one rank 9 is probably more like a diamond than gold. Maybe the 5 people that you find that actually do any work in your business, maybe that's more like the gold. But that's exactly what they're doing, and this is required on a mine. You know, our business is forgiving. This business is not. Because the level of commitment required to get a mine going, you think about the risk attached to what they have to do on a mine, right? They've got the responsibility of 7,000 people working for them. My father was speaking to me about the mining situation, particularly the platinum mining situation in Rustenburg in that area, and the amount of layoffs that they're expecting there. My father-in-law actually used to work for Implats, and he was saying, they're going to be definitely getting rid of about 3,500 staff over there on the Implats mine. So it's been in the news for the last while. Obviously, there's lots of negotiation that happens with the unions and the government before that actually becomes a reality. But my father said in those provinces, one miner will support about 10 people at home. So when they talk about 3,500 workers suddenly becoming retrenched and unemployed, it impacts about 40,000 people in that area. So you can imagine the amount of responsibility that you have trying to make this mine not just run, but profitable, so that you can support, 70,000 people, 70,000 children, wives, husbands, all in those areas, right? And so there's a massive amount of responsibility, and that's why they run 24 hours a day. We have to start feeling a sense of accountability in our channel building. Because even though we're not trying to support 70,000 families or 7,000 families, and we don't have the responsibility of the investment that's been put in and this massive operation, you still have aspirations for yourself in this business. The problem is that we give up on those aspirations. We don't hold ourselves accountable. We don't prioritize them as much as we should. And then we go, okay, well, I didn't speak to the 30 people this month. I only spoke to 10, but it's okay. Because no one's going to die at the end of the month, right? But what you're doing is you're losing sight of what you want out of this business. Not what you want out of this business, what you want for yourself in this life. And so maybe what we should do is just increase our standard of ourselves a little more, so that we don't keep compromising on what we want in life. All right. So personal activity, how does it work within this business? So now this is very particular to brand new wealth engineers, right? I will imagine we've got a few experienced wealth engineers here that you know exactly what it requires to go out and prospect and connect people to this business. But for a brand new person, start connecting. What does that even mean? It means having a list and speaking to people, right? Straightforward, downright, start speaking to people. Face-to-face is always best. You won't always have that opportunity, right? Especially if we've got these encounters now. You might be speaking to people over the phone in the different provinces where we're doing the encounters, but face-to-face is best. Second best would be on the phone. Third best would be texting, right? And that priority. So why do we prioritize the method of connecting? Well, because we want you to be as successful as possible in connecting. So if I say to you, if you can meet someone face-to-face, you will be 10 times more successful than just texting them over WhatsApp. Well, maybe it's worth you taking a little drive and meeting that person and connecting with them face-to-face. You don't have to sell, and you don't have to convince. How many times, and I fall into this trap constantly myself, how many times do you think I'm trying to, or you find yourself trying to convince the person that Dew Point is for them? Right? All the time. All the time. When miners are mining gold, they're not trying to convince the ore to turn to gold. Right? They'll be there a long time. They'll be there a long time. So maybe this is a lesson we can take from gold miners. All gold miners are trying to do is dig up enough ore. So they're trying to do enough volume that they get the gold that's already in the volume. And channel building is very similar. That personal activity that you require in prospecting is the same. You don't have to go out and find the people and try to convince them to see Dew Point and what it's worth. All you're trying to do is get through enough volume that you can find the people that are already convinced when they see Dew Point. Do you see the difference? Because how much time and effort do we spend trying to convince somebody? How much of our emotion and hope and expectation do we place on a person in that process? Come on, you need it. You've been asking me for money for the last 3 months. You didn't pay your rent. You need this business. This business can do all these things for you. You start putting all this emotion, outlaying it, all this expectation, that person's going to let you down anyway. Because if they can't see what Dew Point has for them, well, what are they going to do in your business? They are just going to let you down in the long run, right? So don't bother trying to convince people. You don't have to sell, you don't have to convince, just get through the volume. And it comes back to our number, our personal activity number. How many people have you tasked yourself with to speak to every single month? Is it the 30? Just get through the 30. Don't worry about trying to convince people. Get through the 30. You'll see the people where the light suddenly comes on and they go, wow, I want to get, how great is that feeling when someone just goes, I'm in. Where do I sign? Where do I sign? You're like, do a little dance outside, come back in, right? You have to get through the volume to find those people. Don't convince the ore to become gold. It doesn't work. They tried that in the medieval days. Remember, they used to try to turn rock into gold. Never worked. All right. Just press play. So what we've done is we've tried to take the business and segment it into responsibilities or accountability. Your responsibility is purely to connect people to our business. The systems and DewPoint takes care of the rest, right? And so, often in the intro presentations, you hear me saying, you only have to connect people to the business opportunity here at DewPoint. Don't try to sell to them. The moment you connect to them, we will take over. We will take over. And I think we do a fairly good job in convincing people of the business opportunity, right? And so all you have to do is press play. You don't have to do anything else. And we've made a number of ways that you can press play, right? Obviously, live intro presentations, we live stream to the entire country 8 times a week. Special intro presentations twice a month. So we do the Tell All Tuesdays, the Throwdown Thursdays. And then we have our new weekly launch workshops for new people. So that goes beyond the intro presentation, but it's fairly key in getting people started is that launch workshop that we're going to be doing this morning after the intro presentation. So those are the opportunities in terms of pressing play. Methods, watch the live stream. The entire country becomes your oyster if you can just tell people to go onto the live stream, click play. On YouTube, anytime. So you can watch the live presentation or just go to one of the old presentations, right? They are all available on YouTube for you. Use the USB stick. So a lot of people will say, oh no, the data's not great in our area, or the connectivity is not great in our area, or I'm moving around a lot and I don't have, I only want to use Wi-Fi. Buy the USB stick. Intro presentations on there. And nowadays you can plug them into TVs, right? TV, laptop, whatever. Play the presentation on that. And then, if you have the opportunity, come to head office. Even if you are outside of Johannesburg, come to the head office now and again. Come see that the building actually exists. Right? We once got accused that the people that we bring up onto stage are actors. Sure, that person that was prospecting, that person should have given up right there and then. Right? That's really trying to turn dust into gold when someone accuses you that these testimonies that you have people giving on stage are actors. So come to head office, because that instills a lot of belief in people. I think when they come to head office, we often get complimented on the state of our offices. People go, wow, these are fancy offices and they look so good, and the owners in the business are around and you can speak to everybody and all the staff. It makes it a lot more real and a lot more authentic for people. But even if you're outside of Joburg, come once in a while if you can. All right. So pressing play, extremely simple. You have to leverage these tools. You have to find a way where personal activity becomes most convenient and economical for you. Petrol is going up again next month. Even for me coming to the office, I'm like, I prefer to work at home. I'll set up a little studio there in Edenvale. We'll give live presentations out of Edenvale. Might be closer for some of you to come to my house rather than come to head office, right? Because petrol's getting so expensive, it's ridiculous. You have to make this convenient for yourself. Find a process. And for new people, you have to tell often new people what they do is they join DewPoint, they want to know what they have to do. So they think there's a method that's the ideal method to connecting people. You have to make sure that new wealth engineers have to figure out for themselves what the most convenient method of pressing play is for them. Because if it's a frustrating process, if you say to them, oh no, you must come to head office, you must bring your people to head office, but they stay 50 kilometers away, it suddenly becomes very uneconomical for them to come all the way out to head office. So make sure when you find new people that they get to feel what the most convenient and most economical way for them is to press play. And that's why we've designed all these tools and the technology that we've put in place so that becomes possible. So some people might go somewhere where there's free Wi-Fi, right? McDonald's, Mug and Bean, wherever. And the only cost to them is the coffee they've got to buy for themselves in the prospect, right? Cheaper than petrol still, right? So figure out what is the most convenient way, because this is your lifeblood. This is the lifeblood to your business, right? Okay. Tools to use. So we've got plenty of tools here at DewPoint. Obviously, the website. We are going to be revamping parts of the website in the next few months, which is going to be quite exciting. Then we've got our upcoming events. So make sure that you've planned with regard to the upcoming events. You won't. Jane told me that the people, instead of clicking on DewPoint Encounter, they're clicking on the wrong thing. How do you click on the wrong thing when you're going to DewPoint, right? You've got to be so familiar with the upcoming events. But I think we've made it so regular that people know exactly when the intro presentations are. But for a new person, remember, this is for a new person. This is a basic series development seminar. So you're all experienced, but for new people, make sure that they know where the events are, how to click on details, how to click on attend, how to click on the live stream button, right? Make sure that new people know how to do these, to use the tools. We've got the dashboard. So the dashboard's available on the internet as well as mobile devices. Not only available mobile devices, you can go onto the internet and log into your dashboard, right? And you get the same functionality presented on your dashboard. And then we've got our wealth quests. So the wealth quest every single month changes. And then we've got 20 other quests available that allow you to earn XP. This is more induction for new people, right? The mobile app, everyone's familiar with the mobile app, probably the number one thing that you get a new wealth engineer to install on his phone, so he's aware of what his personal activity is translating into. So personal activity, when you're prospecting, and even if you're successful in prospecting, is only part of the process, because you're still waiting for that debit order to happen. That debit order is the final kind of result in whether you've prospected successfully or not, right? And the mobile app tells you whether that's being successful or not, right? You want a big blue number. You don't want a very big red number, right? Make sure that your new wealth engineers are aware of that. They think, oh, I'm getting paid for prospecting. You don't get paid for prospecting. You get paid for successful prospecting. What is a successful prospect? Someone who pays their debit order. All right. And then we've got all the communication we send out with regards to the special intro presentations that we do. We've got notices that come up in the app. So I explain to them what the notices are, because we send out notices nearly every day. Well, we do. We send out notice for the live stream that happens every day, and then all the special kind of notices that go out on top of that. Make sure a new wealth engineer understands that, because they need to become engaged. In branding, we used to call it engagement, right? So you knew to be successful at advertising, you needed to increase a consumer's engagement with the brand. And there were lots of ways that you could do that, right? But engagement is about how often is your brand in the consumer's mind. If you get them onto the mobile app and you get them onto notices, they are going to be engaging with DewPoint daily, right? It doesn't become gee, I forgot DewPoint. I was supposed to get qualified last week. Right? Get them engaged in the business. The mobile app does that for you, right? The whole point of notices is to keep people engaged. And then if you log into the dashboard and go into the app, we've got all the basic series listed under tools, right? So if you go to channel tools, you'll see all the videos listed there, and you get XP for watching all of those. You can go onto our YouTube channel. The YouTube channel has got over 500 videos there, mostly old presentations and live presentations set up, but all the training, all the special interviews that we've done with special guests, and the testimonies are all on the YouTube channel. So a brand new wealth engineer, just go browse. Tell them, go browse the YouTube channel. Go check out some of the stuff that DewPoint's got up. And then more importantly, this very special little tool for connecting people to press play. All right, on the USB stick. On Skis, just getting excited over the Rolls Royce. Patrick wants a Bentley, not a Rolls Royce, right? This is rank 32. The Rolls Royce is rank 32. Unfortunately, the program only goes up to rank 28. But on to our next core behavior. So the next core behavior is quality. And quality is a difficult one because it's not a metric that it's a metric that we can measure, but for your discernment, it's a fairly gray area. And this is something that will define your channel going forward. And we see it in wealth engineers, right? So we can look at a wealth engineer's business and we go, wow, they're doing so well. Look how busy they are and active. And then 3 months later, they've got nothing. Then you go, oh, I wonder what happened. You go back and you see that all the people they put in the first month paid for 1 month and then didn't pay the second month. And then you've got someone else's business. Maybe they're a little bit less active, but everyone they put in has been paying for 2 years, right? That is as a result of the discernment in when you look at quality. And quality is a core behavior here at DewPoint. It gives you the direction of your personal activity. It is a discernment of how do you spend and prioritize your time when you're prospecting. Who do you decide to go see, right? So for our wealth engineers that are very active, you've got to decide, is this person worthwhile spending an hour, 2 hours with? When you check them out and you think, do they have belief in the business? Are they going to pay their product? These are all these discernment qualities that you have to make a decision on all the time. That's why I say it's a gray area. It's not a black and white, they're definitely not going to pay, they are going to pay. You are making a judgment call constantly with regards to quality. And in mining, they're exactly the same thing. Quality mining, right? Miners cannot waste their time. They have to be as efficient as possible. 50% of the gold mines in South Africa are marginal. That means they are not quite making profit, 1 month profit, 1 month not profit, right? You can't afford that. And so in mining, some very basic principles of gold mining is you've got to follow the ore body. The ore body is where the gold reef sits in the ore, right? So some of it can be that thick, 5 centimeters thick of a gold vein running in an ore body. And sometimes it can be a little bit thicker, right? But you've got to be able to follow that. Today they've got computerized systems that allow you to project where that ore body is going. And gold miners will follow that, right? You've got to do the same thing in your businesses. You've got to follow where the money is, where the quality individuals are. It's not about putting up a DewPoint banner somewhere outside of a shopping center and just trying to get any single person that's walking on the street into your business. We don't require that volume at DewPoint, right? You have to be more discerning about the quality. So you've got to have a strategy around how to find that quality. So hopefully you have that strategy. The grade of gold will vary. So even in gold mining, it's a bit of a gray area. They'll follow the ore body, but suddenly there's 5 grams per ton, then it's 3 grams per ton, then it's 7 grams per ton, 8 grams per ton. It will vary. That is not the problem. The problem is you want to make sure that you're getting the best, the most effective quality out of the prospecting that you do. Because if you go out and you find 10 people and they all become wealth engineers and 5 don't pay, you've just wasted 50% of your month. Half your time has been completely wasted, right? Try get that number up. And it is a metric that we measure. It's called BPQ. Support services are integral. So in mining, they've got a lot of contractors that come in to support the mining production that happens. And those partnerships are key to a successful mine. You, in terms of this business opportunity, have chosen DewPoint as a business partner, right? Some of you might have other streams of income. So you still have to be discerning. Even going forward, you might be presented with other business opportunities. You always have to be discerning in who you are partnering with. Because if you decide, DewPoint's not working for me, the grass seems greener on the other side, let me jump and go see what's happening there, you're starting at 0 again, and if you choose badly, you will waste not only 50% of your month, you could waste 2-3 years of your life on something else because it might not create sustainable income. Choose your partners wisely. Commitment and investment. So this is a good one. My father says, and he has almost become a specialist in turning mines around. So he will come to a mine that's making a loss. So the 2 shafts they bought, the most recent one they bought near Carletonville, from a mine that was producing, he said in the last quarter, they lost R500 million. in the last quarter. They took over the mine in they took over the mine in March. By June, they were turning profit, right? So I said, well, what's the difference? He said, it's commitment. The number one thing to making a business opportunity profitable is commitment. If you go in half committed, 80% committed, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. You have to have belief in your ability, belief in the business that you're pursuing, and that belief will translate to hopefully 100% commitment. Because what happens is when you commit 100% to something, your priority suddenly increases in that business opportunity. It becomes the number one priority. Go look at Lynette Badenhorst's testimony this week. She talks about commitment and priority. It might have taken some time for her to realize, well, I need to increase my commitment. I have to make Dew Point a priority. In mining, it's no different. You have to go in with a commitment, and they require investment. Because if you're not committed, you're not going to get investment. If you're not committed, you're not going to invest time into the business, right? And this is something you have to instill in new wealth engineers. From a psychological point of view, probably the hardest thing for you to get when you connect somebody is to get that wealth engineer, one, to trust you and the business proposition. That's the biggest thing. If you go up to a stranger and go, oh, I've got a business opportunity for you, they're like, who are you? What do you want from me? Leave me alone, right? The biggest obstacle is getting them to trust you, to trust what you have to say. And then when they get involved, this is an area that you don't have understanding of. You have no idea of what their belief level is in the business. You don't. You can figure it out if you ask questions. We'll get onto that a little later in the presentation. But you have to get their belief to be maximum so that they commit 100% to the business, they make it a priority, and they spend as much time as they can in the business for their benefit as well as yours, right? And then beware fool's gold. So what does that look like to you? Does that look like real gold or fool's gold? And that wasn't a lesson from the gold miner. My dad says you've got to be really doff if you don't know the difference between fool's gold and real gold if you're a gold miner. But for us, I remember as a kid, he used to bring a rock with fool's gold in the rock. And it looked fantastic. It was shiny and yellow. It looked exactly like gold. It actually even looked better than the real gold, right? Because the real gold you often don't see in the rock. Fool's gold looks like that. Looks very impressive. How many times do you see these business opportunities floating around South Africa? There's a new one already on the last big one's already out the back door and the new one's in already, right? And people are talking about, the new one. It comes to discernment again. Do not be fooled by fool's gold. So how do you not become fooled by fool's gold? Knowledge. Knowledge, right? If you just go into something blind, that's why I'm very worried about people that don't ask any questions. They're just like, right, I'm going to do this thing. They don't ask any questions. No, I've done a business like this before. And you just think, oh, this person's going to set themselves up for disappointment, right? Because you have to appreciate what you're getting yourself involved in. If you don't appreciate what you're getting involved in, then you actually don't have any appreciation of the value of the business that you're committing yourself to. And then you can't have commitment to something that you don't appreciate, right? So beware the fool's gold. Okay, so what does this look like particular to Dew Point? What does a quality prospect look like? So again, this is a gray area. A couple of rules that a lot of wealth engineers use to kind of predict whether this is going to be a good prospect or a quality prospect. Are they regular income earners? Often the knee-jerk reaction of wealth engineers is, I'm going to go to all the unemployed people. My cousin got retrenched. I'm going to go to them and I'm going to go look for all these unemployed people because they need Dew Point. That's not the direction you need to go in, right? Now you're going the opposite way of the ore body. Now you're digging for coal in the gold mine. You don't want to do that. So, regular income earner helps, right? Because you know they've got regular income. They should be able to pay for their product. Do they have access to the internet? That's an important one. Dew Point is very technology driven. Everything is online for us, right? It is to make it convenient and accessible for our wealth engineers. So if you go to somebody and they don't even have an email address, get a little worried, right? They've got transport readily available to them. Why? Why is transport important? It goes back to our point, face-to-face is best, right? If they have zero transport, well, then they've hamstringed themselves a little bit in terms of prospecting. And then is dew point a priority? So this is the belief question. That's the belief question. Do they have belief in the business, right? Do they appreciate what they have in front of them? Is their commitment up or down? Is their belief up or down? So those are very important. And these are questions that you can ask, and it goes a little further. So you can become a little more specialized in your discernment. Connecting your peers is generally a good rule. So what are peers? Peers are people that are typically have similar aspirations to you. Culturally, they may be the same as you. They're more relatable. It makes for better teams because if you can relate to people better around you, these are typically people that you're going to be with for the next 30 years, right? So you want to be able to build teams that you can relate with. You don't want, what often is, so another knee-jerk reaction is people will, what we call sell down. Even though we don't have any selling in our business, you will automatically go to people below you. When I say below you, they maybe earn less than you, or they're unemployed, or, so you can feel a little more superior. It allows you to feel confident when you go and you go, listen to me. I'm doing better in life than you are. Listen to me. Dew point is the way forward, right? That is what people often do, is they sell down. But if your entire channel starts selling down, you're going to have very poor quality people by the second or third point. Don't do that. Go to your peers, right? People similar, in a similar level of life to you. So again, it's a gray area. This is a decision that you constantly have to make. But relating to your peers is a lot better. And then another aspect that you can look at with regards to quality is when people are filling out. So this you might feel is a bit late in the day, but when people are filling out an application form, there are a lot of signs, or should I say red flags, that'll pop up when someone's filling out the form. So often what we do is we help people fill the form out, right? We sit with them and go, oh, just do this, just do this. So the new form, you know what the new form looks like. So one of the questions, when you get to the product selection page, there's a little help button in the bottom left. If you click on that help button, this page loads, and we've got this thing called product suitability questionnaire. If you click on that questionnaire, it's going to ask you questions with regards to, are you an income earner? How much money do you earn? Blah, blah, blah. These are suitability questions. If they fail the questionnaire, right, what comes back and says, the products probably don't suit you because you can't afford them, really, is the answer. And so that's a red flag for people. Next is when they choose their debit order dates. So we know government gets paid in the middle of the month, and typically employees get paid at the end of the month. When people start picking these arbitrary dates, you know there's a rat in the kitchen, right? Just be aware of that. Say to somebody, when does your salary get paid? Put the debit order after your salary date, right? Why would you put it anywhere else? That doesn't make sense. So something to be aware of. Bank account details. So probably the biggest problem we have in our business is people record their bank account details incorrectly. I don't know what percentage it accounts for, but it's large enough that it's the biggest issue here at Dew Point. So we'll have all these debit orders that bounce at the end of the month, and then we've got to go and go, oh, are your account details incorrect? Because they've loaded the account details in, the bank's returned and said, account details wrong. It's not a check account, maybe it's a savings account, right? So when someone's filling this out, what they might be doing is going, oh, I can't afford this, let me just put the wrong account number in, right? They'll do that instead of saying to you, I can't afford the product. So just be aware of what's happening over here. We've built in some functionality that checks that the account number is actually a savings account or a check account, and that'll come through in the thing. It'll come up with another screen that's red and says, the account details look incorrect. Please double check them. If you're sure they're correct, proceed. Otherwise, try fix them and then proceed. Right? But it's something for you to be aware of, certainly. All right. Then on to our third core behavior. The third core behavior is growth. Successful growth is results quality activity. So your growth is going to be very much dependent on the first two core behaviors. Personal activity, right? And your quality. That will those two things will become the product or kind of equal what your growth looks like. But your growth goes beyond that. Your growth goes towards or looks at teamwork very closely, right? So in gold mining, well, how do they ensure growth in gold mining? They don't really look at growth in gold mining. They do, actually, they do. But typically, they are only worried about a certain ore body, right? And the ore body can be around for 40 years, and they'll mine that ore body. And when that ore body runs out, then they close the mine, right? And then they've got an environmental fund. That is a fund that allows them to make the area back to its original kind of state. But in some cases, like in my father's case, on one of the shafts they've got, he says there's an ore body below the ore body that they're mining. But they need 4 billion rand investment to mine that ore body, right? And so they do make long-term decisions. What they can also do in mining is make short-term decisions, which is not good. So a short-term decision is going, here's the ore body, here's where most of the gold's sitting, let's just mine all that gold, and then we're done. They've forgotten about the rest of the ore body. And so the lifespan of that mine, instead of being 40 years, suddenly becomes 5 years. And now it's not worth anyone to come mine anything because they've just mined the best bit out of the mine and left it, right? So in terms of long-term decision-making, what they'll do is they will actually try make the lifespan of that ore body as long as possible. So they won't just hunt for the best gold. They will try average it out, right, for longevity, for employment, for all these good things. And so they have long-term goals. At the same time, labor relations is critical. So this is something that's actually particular to Dew Point 2. You can call it labor relations too if you want. That's your engagement with your first point. You can call it labor relations, right? And my wife is a specialist in labor relations on the labor litigation side of things. So she works for Anglo American, and they employ, I think, the most miners in the country. But labor relations is critical, and we know this on mines, right? It is critical in the way that if you don't look after labor relations on a mine, it will cripple the mine. Go speak to anyone who's had extended strikes on a mine, right? And so it's one of the biggest things. And it is probably one of the most difficult aspects of business because you've got two, especially on a gold mine, you've got these two different standpoints. You've got labor that want to get paid more, and you've got the mine that's just trying to make a profit, right? I remember my dad speaking to me when they took over the first mining shaft. The union came to them, and he's actually always excelled in labor relations to the extent where government and unions used to contract him in to come help with the labor relations. But one of his union meetings that he had on the mine, they gave him a list of demands. And the first demand right at the top of the list was, we want you to resign. Right? And so it can be very difficult. But I'm sure that no first pointer has told any lead wealth engineer, you need to leave Dew Point. Right? So it's not as hard as gold mining. So what does it look like in terms of channel building? So it can be defined as support, right? And support is a very important thing. And this is something that we touch on in our Teamworks meetings. It's something that we touch on in the launch workshops, is the importance of support. So what does support look like for brand new wealth engineers? Okay, again, face-to-face is best. If you're able to sit in front of somebody and say, well, this is what you need to be doing. I'm here to support you. I'm here to help you. I'm here to show you how everything works. That is always ideal. Ask, don't expect. So you will know, if you've ever said in any of my Teamworks, I call it micromanaging. Do not micromanage people. People don't like that, right? And the basic tool or the basic principle is, well, stop dictating to people what your expectations are. If you want to not micromanage, just ask questions. That's the easiest thing to remember is, okay, just keep asking questions. Because what happens when you ask questions? You get to find out a whole bunch of things about the person that's just become a wealth engineer. You know what their priorities are, you know what their goals are, you know what their aspirations are. You will start to understand what their level of belief is in Dew Point. You will understand whether they know how to connect someone in Dew Point. Instead of just saying, okay, people in my team, in the Lions team, we all get qualified in the first 3 days. Right? That's dictating to somebody, and that's completely unrealistic, right? You start placing your expectations on someone, what happens automatically in that process? They go, this person is in it for themselves. They don't care about me. They just want to get their third point open, right? And so ask questions. It'll help you in supporting your first point. First goal, rank 1. So often we say just get the person qualified or to rank 1, right? Keep it simple for people when you're supporting them. Everything that we've gone through, this is maybe even this dev seminar. This dev seminar, they only probably need to become aware of maybe once they've gotten to rank 1. Because to find just 3 people or 4 people doesn't require you to understand the entire business of DewPoint. You literally only need to go find 4 people and connect them, hopefully with the help of the lead wealth engineer, to get them to rank 1. And so keep it simple in the beginning when you are supporting your first pointers. You will evolve that support over time, right? Connect to the tools. So make sure that brand new people understand how to connect to the tools. Not for the sake of practicality only, for the sake of engagement. For the sake of engagement. We've made all these tools available so that we have all these points of engagement. They're all opportunities to engage with wealth engineers constantly. Because the moment we don't speak to a wealth engineer for a month, they're gone. They're gone. We don't see them again. But if we can engage with a wealth engineer just once a week at least, we try and engage every single day, but if we're just speaking to wealth engineers once a week, it's top of mind, and they go, I should be bringing some people. Let me speak to this person because DewPoint is top of mind, right? So the tools are not only for practical purposes, they are also opportunities of engagement. So if you give a brand new wealth engineer a couple of tools and you say, just engage with these, the mobile app will engage with them every day, right? So that's probably the primary tool that you want them to use. And then also the understanding, the ability to press play. Because they're going to say to you, when I speak to someone, what do I do then? And you go, well, where are you? Do you have connectivity? Do you have Wi-Fi? Do you have access to data? If those answers are all no, you say, you have to buy a USB stick. But I'm not in Joburg. They'll send the USB stick to you, right? With the intro presentation. Make sure that they know how to connect people. That is probably the most important tool. That and the app. Okay. Ongoing support is always team communication, right? You never want to be silent as a lead wealth engineer. Imagine DewPoint just went silent for a month. Imagine that. No intro presentations, no training, no communication. You came to the door. You're trying to see inside the offices if anyone's there, and there's no one there. Imagine that happened for 1 month. Tell me what the result would be after 30 days of DewPoint not being around. Gone. Gone. The entire business would collapse. So why do wealth engineers think that they have the luxury of just not communicating with their first point for extended periods of time? You are no different. You might think, we're just wealth engineers and all the accountability sits on head office. It doesn't. The accountability for us is as much as it is for you. You have accountability to your channel that you're building. The same responsibility that we have to the entire business, you have that responsibility to your individual channels. And so you cannot go silent for any amount of time, even when you are feeling like you've just been beaten up by all the bounced debit orders that month. All right? So channel engagement is key. And you have to develop a strategy around this so that you can actually become very practical around what your rules of engagement are with your first point. So that you don't have to be thinking constantly about, what am I going to speak to people a day? You can have a schedule. Write it down. Go brand new wealth engineers. I talk to them about this in the first week, the second week, the third week. If someone becomes qualified, I do that. When it's Tell-All Tuesday, I do that. When it's Throwdown Thursday, I do that. When there's training, I do that. And that's your schedule. That's your rule of engagement to your entire first point. And just follow that, right? It's what we do. It's exactly what we do at head office. When we have our management meeting, we go, what is happening? So we have management meeting every Monday morning. You'll know that if you're on Facebook because Brendan tells you what happened in the management meeting. And we know what's happening in the week. And we just follow the schedule. We know every month there's movers and shakers, the email that goes out. We reconcile the bank accounts. We know when Tell-All Tuesday is. We've invited the people to Tell-All Tuesday. We know when Throwdown Thursday is happening. We know when training's happening. Right? So we just got a schedule that we follow. We don't make it complicated. We're not trying to guess what we're doing every single week. Make it a schedule for yourselves. Events diarized. So exactly, events diarized. We've got 3 months, maybe even 6 months going ahead of all the events that we've got planned, right? There are no surprises. No surprises for anyone. So make sure that the events are diarized, but communicate it to your team. This is not information you keep to yourself in your head. This is always the stuff that you are speaking to your first pointers about. Training, the system, tools, right? We are constantly evolving stuff. Even this presentation, it used to be called fundamentals. If you go look at fundamentals from 2 years ago, you'll see there's still the core behaviors, but a lot of the content is different because we constantly are evolving everything. The application form has just been updated, right? So we don't build the system and go, right, that's the system, they can use that for 10 years. We are constantly looking at ways to improve, and there's always going to be new information around this. And these are opportunities to engage with your first point and go, did you see the new app? Oh, no, I didn't see the app. You've got to download the new app. If you download the new app, you'll see the new application form. These are just opportunities to speak to people. What we often do is we mistake opportunities of engagement for trying to convince somebody to do something. You don't have to convince somebody to suddenly become more active at Dewpoint. If you just speak to them a little bit without any expectation. Because what happens when we speak to someone, there's always expectation, isn't there? Right? You phone someone because you want them to do something. If you put that on its head, now you're going to go like, I don't know if I can do that because I'm so desperate to build my channel. But if you just speak to people for the sake of informing them about what's going on, I promise you they will get engaged on their own. You don't have to phone them and go, the new app, have you not downloaded your app? I see you've lost a wealth engineer and now I've lost a point on my channel, right? Don't do that. That's micromanaging. That's placing expectation. And at the same time, you're doing a disservice to yourself because when you place expectation on someone and they let you down, you will be depressed for the rest of the day. So try use this. These are opportunities for engagement. Inform people. When you are speaking to your first pointers, don't place expectation on them. Even in parenting, my wife is going to become the leading expert on parenting because she freaking reads a book about parenting every single day of night. While I'm sitting in bed and I'm playing my computer games, my wife is like, let me read you this about parenting. Then she'll read me something. Obviously, I've done something wrong, right, with regards to parenting. But it follows very similar principles. When you are trying to raise children, if you constantly place expectation on your children, it only leads to them feeling disappointed in themselves. That's all it leads to. You have to build an environment where there is no expectation, where you lead by example, not by placing expectation on other people, right? It'll change the environment completely, not only for the person that you're trying to affect, but for yourselves too. All right, so try that. Try that. Don't place expectation. The next time you phone a first pointer, decide before you phone the first pointer, am I phoning them just to tell them something nice and new about Dewpoint, or am I phoning them because I want to find out why they haven't connected anybody? Ask yourself the question. All right. Lead by example. Very important. Like I said, the accountability and the responsibility you have to your channel is the same responsibility we have to the entire business. Imagine this morning I got up in shorts and my T-shirt I slept in last night, and I was 5 minutes late. Okay? Everyone's shaking their heads. Can't believe it. Brendan wouldn't allow it. Right? And so leading by example is very important. You actually have to set an example even beyond what you expect for yourself sometimes. Like for me, I hate wearing ties. Right? I come in the mornings, you see, my tie's not on. I put it on the last moment I have to. Right? But I do it because I know that it sets an example that is good for my business. No other reason. No other reason. Not because I like the tie. I had to go buy ties when I joined Dewpoint. Right? Working in advertising, we don't wear ties. If anyone in a tie walks into an ad agency, we think the receiver's coming to audit you. Right? But for Brendan and his business, and the businesses traditionally in financial services, have always looked at first impressions very seriously. Right? Because in financial services, you're playing with people's lives. And you have to create an impression that where people can trust you. Right? And so we wear a tie. And for you, there are many things that represent what leading by example looks like. Not only by the way you dress, maybe that's less important for you guys. It's still important though when you go out connect. And the reason why we lead by example is because we want people to duplicate our behavior. If you want people to build in your channel, you better be building your channel. If you want people to be engaged with DewPoint all the time, you better be engaged with DewPoint all the time. If you want to get them qualifying first pointers, well, you better be qualifying first pointers yourselves, right? If you don't want them to disappear for weeks on end, you better not be the person disappearing weeks on end when you're holiday or you're depressed or you jump to something else. You've got to lead by example. Master the tools. Now this for me, this is such an easy thing, and a lot of people don't do it. We've got wealth engineers that have been in the business for a year and a half that'll still come to us and go, how do I add beneficiaries? It's like, how long have you been in this business? You don't even know how to add beneficiaries. Guys, we need to become experts in everything DewPoint. If a first pointer asks you something, you say, this is how you do it. This is how you do it. This is how you do it. You should be exploring every little nook and cranny of the business so that nothing is a surprise to you. After 2 years, you should not be phoning client service. Right? Unless you're really confused about something. You should know everything about our business because we are transparent about everything. You want to know how the debit orders work? You want to know how we interface with banks? It's all been discussed in our training seminars. Everything is out there. All the information is out there. You have to become master of the tools so that the people in your first point see you with confidence. They don't want to see their lead wealth engineer as this person who doesn't know what's going on. They want to see a person above them who's an expert in the business, right? Persevere through the disappointment. Now this is the big, this is like the most contentious issue, isn't it? Isn't that what Brendan's always shouting at people about? Perseverance, why do you give up? Perseverance, endurance, work ethic. These qualities that are, they're difficult to uphold. They are difficult to uphold because they are based on emotion. How do you just change your emotion? You can't. We sometimes feel that we can't dictate our emotions to our body. You can't say to your brain, stop being depressed after all the debit orders that bounced this month and lost a whole qualified point. My life's going to end, right? You have to persevere through the disappointment, not only for your sake, for your channel's sake, right? Because what happens if you don't persevere through disappointment? Go ask Lynette. Ask Lynette if she gave up. Ask her how many opportunities she had to give up. Go ask her that. She wouldn't have been on stage this week. She wouldn't. She wouldn't have jumped from rank 3 to rank 8 in 5 months. She wouldn't. She would have given up before that. But she didn't. She persevered. That's why when she came onto stage, I said, this lady is testament to endurance. Endurance, for sure. She would come and tell us, I'm going to make this business work whether it kills me. And we would go, heard that before. 2.5 years later, she's still pushing, still fighting, still aggressive for what she wants, so determined, right? It is a very important characteristic, not only in channel building, in life. Because we will always have opportunity to give up in life. Always, right? Persevere through the disappointment. Serve as a good example to your channel. Persistence creates belief. It does create belief. Because think of this. Think about faith. Right? Faith is something that you have when the apparent result is not apparent. You have to have faith nonetheless. And if you have the faith, and the faith allows you to persevere through disappointment, and you come through on the other side, that suddenly instills belief. That is the result of faith. Right? It is the same for business. The persistency creates belief. If you just give up at the first opportunity, there's zero belief. Then you're on to the next system. And if you have that same flaw in your character, you think it's all going to be roses at the next opportunity, you're going to come up circumstances that again be opportunity to give up. And again, you'll give up. And you'll blame the system, and there'll be zero belief. And then you'll jump to the next system and the next system. This is something you can develop. Don't go, but that's hard for me. You can develop this as a character trait, right? But you have to want it first. 3 steps to success. So there we go, guys. Those are the core behaviors. Personal activity, quality growth. Remember, this is a dev seminar for new people, but even as an experienced wealth engineer, you can always go back to these core behaviors and go, we will always face adversity. Even the experienced wealth engineers, right? All of us, you'll face adversity. This is a good measure to go back and look. I call it almost like a supply chain, right? When you guys were in for Teamworks, remember I wrote the supply chain. I said, you prospect. The person connects. You've got a new wealth engineer. You're trying to get them qualified. You're trying to get them to do this and do that. You've got this whole supply chain in your business. When you start having hardship, you just reflect on these aspects, the core behaviors, and go, where am I lacking? Where can I improve? How can I fix the supply chain in my channel building exercise? Because there's always room for improvement, all right? So even for the experienced wealth engineers, come back to these core behaviors to help yourself. The reality of mining, as in channel building, gold grade fluctuations. You will have seasons in your channel building. Sometimes the gold grade will be good, and times will be good. And sometimes the gold grade will be bad, and times will feel bad. Right? Labor relations will go good and will go bad. Labor relations with your first point. The dollar exchange rate will fluctuate. Out of your control. What can a mine do about dollar exchange rate? Absolutely nothing, right? Regulatory risks. We all face regulatory risks, right? That's just an issue that every gold mine has to face. Safety hazards, constantly. If there's a fatality on the mine, they shut that mine down. And if they lose one shift on a mine, they're losing 1 million, 2 million rand every 6 hours on a mine, right? We don't have that problem in channel building, fortunately. This is the reality of mining. Why would anyone want to invest in mining? Because when they need investment, they're not asking for 249 rand a month. It's more like 249 million, 2 billion. Those are the numbers they're talking about. So with all these issues, why would anyone invest in mining? Because if you get the core behaviors right, there is a success waiting for you. And when a gold mine makes money, it makes money, right? And that's why people get engaged with these things. Because there are all these negative aspects. We call it what to expect. You bring 100 people into this business, 65 are going to say no. You introduce them to the intro presentation, 65% will say no, but 35% will say yes. From the outside, if you say more than half of the people aren't interested in DuPont, you go, oh, well, that doesn't sound like a great business. Nonetheless, we can be successful based on these little numbers, the 35 that say yes, the 5% that decide to actually do some work, and then our little diamond. That's the gold, that's the diamond, right? Because for every 100 people that you get in front of an intro presentation, you're likely to find that diamond in the rough. But unfortunately, it doesn't shine like a diamond from the outside. But diamonds are the same, right? You get rough diamonds. I remember we lived in Northcliffe when my father was at head office. We moved to Northcliffe, and if you walk on Northcliffe Hill, they've got all these quartz rocks lying around that look like diamonds. My father used to lie to us and say they're diamonds. And I'd come back with all my pockets loaded with these fake diamonds, right? You have to go through the 100 to find out who the diamond is. You can't tell from the outside. You have to give the same support to the 35% that say yes. You've got to treat them equally with the same benefits, the same love, without any expectation. Building a culture in your channel where people are able to thrive in their DuPont businesses so that that one diamond begins to shine. You need to help polish that diamond, right? Because that person will bring 1,000 people into their own channels. Now imagine having a rank 9 on your first point. Pumi knows what it feels like, right? Imagine having 2 rank 9s on your first point, 3 rank 9s on your first point. Now ask yourself the question, how quickly am I getting through 100 people? How many days is it going to take me to press play 100 times? Because that's all you have to do. Press play 100 times. That number is going to stay the same. Just press play. Support them. Polish the one diamond. All right, so that's what to expect. This is very important because this allows people to understand, yes, there's all this negativity in the business. I don't have to be down about it because I can still be successful with just the 5 people working out of the 100 that I've showed the presentation to. Right, that's why that is so important. All right, let's go to the next thing. How much time do we have? Oh, we're over. How long will 3 plus 2 take? So for rank 1s, to get to rank 1 is going to take 2 months. So this is 3 plus 2, remember? 3 in your first month, 2 every consecutive month. You get to 165 Rand. Rank 2 will take you 4 months. Rank 3, 7 months. Rank 4, 9 months. You'll be earning 5,000 Rand after 9 months if you consistently bring in 2. The problem is we think we are, if I just, and I only brought in 1 this month. If you bring in 1, these numbers slow down by nearly quadruple fold. It doesn't half. You don't go, okay, well, it's okay. I'll get to 2,500 after 9 months. No. It'll take you 4 times 9 months to get to 5,000 Rand if you're only bringing in 1 person instead of 2. You have to do 2 or more. 2 or more is the minimum. Then we got, rank 5, rank 6, rank 7, rank 8, rank 9. So we always show people what they'll get to after 12 months, about 9,000 Rand. That'll get you to rank 6. Rank 9, that's where everyone wants to be. That's 1.5 years about, right? You'll be earning close to 20,000 Rand about at that stage. That is how long 3 plus 2 takes, right? If you get to rank 4, Brendan will highlight exactly where you are on this table, and then everyone gets very nervous when they come to those generator workshops. Rank 10, rank 10, 2 years, 26,000 a month. It's a good place to be, right? And then rank 11, you're doing over 30,000 Rand a month. 2.5 years to get to rank 11. Minimum 2 people a month. The merchandise, you can see we've spruced up our merchandise slide a little bit. We've got the prices on. We've got the new notepad on. Get the tools. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to you so that you can tell your first pointers, right? You should know exactly which first pointers have got merchandise. You can apply a little bit of pressure there. That's the only place I'll allow you to place expectation on your first pointers. Why do you not have the tools? Don't you believe in the business? Don't you think you should invest a little bit in your Dew Point business if you're going to make it work? Get the tools, not expensive. 25 Rand for the notepad already. You're looking professional with business cards and a notepad. These pins. That pin is only for people that become qualified in our business. I think we've got people that are fresh out the blocks that buy those businesses. They're not even rank 1 yet, right? But we don't check. But those are specific to people that are qualified in the business. In other words, they are earning. When we talk about belief and engagement in our business, the belief comes with all these kind of things. It's almost like Dew Point jewelry, right? If you have belief in the business, if you're living, what we call living the brand, you should be making sure that every rank that you progress on, that you've got that pin on your lapel. What do we want out of the business? Why do we come to training? Why are we doing this business? What are your reasons for doing it? A gold miner is doing it for this. It's 500,000 Rand for 1 kilogram of gold. 500,000 Rand, right? I think the price was 600,000 Rand for a kilogram of gold. So my father's mines are doing 500 kilograms a month. Work that out. How much money they're making there. What are your reasons for doing this business? If you don't understand what the necessity is for this business, that necessity will not translate, or the lack of necessity cannot translate into commitment. It can't translate into time investment. It won't translate into belief. The necessity has to be there from the beginning. The reason why you're doing this business has to be there. It is the motivator for you to keep engaged with Dew Point. And with time, your belief will evolve. I don't expect people to believe 100% in Dew Point business the moment they become wealth engineers. That's impossible. That's why we have all these opportunities for engagement, because the more they engage with Dew Point, that belief starts to increase. Speak to Lynette. Lynette didn't 100% trust the business for 1.5 years, right? But that's not a long time. We think it might be a long time, but 1.5 years is not a lot. But then the penny dropped and she said, Fricky, we've got to make this a priority in our lives, right? It'll change your business completely. So remind yourself why you're doing this. Who wants to go to Mauritius? Who wants to be earning 30,000 Rand a month? These are still early days. I'm not asking you what you want in 2 years' time. Your motivation has to be something that is a little more long-term, a little more serious. 5 years. Where do you want to be in 5 years? 10 years in this business. It has to be a constant reminder of the motivation in your business. So guys, use this development seminar. I hope the little story around gold mining will sit in your minds a little longer than just practical dew point channel building. And remember, connect your first pointers and your new people to the basic series development seminars, because they are so powerful. Not because you're trying to get them to understand how the business works, because you're trying to build belief in their minds in the business. If you build the belief, everything will follow. Good luck. Thank you, guys.